Hello and welcome along to another Ben Talks To. Yes, it's the podcast that I host where I get top Reds, journalists, ex-pros on to chat about our football club. And today is no exception. What a show this is going to be. We recorded a show at the start of the transfer window. I think it was actually one of the first transfer specials we done on this channel back in the summer when we was on just a few subscribers. Jamie, luckily for us, gave up his time to come and chat to us. And now we're doing it after, I think now we're nearly towards 1.5k and we're getting some really good interaction with fans, so it's great to come full circle just a few months later and chat to this guy, because Jamie Jackson then was telling us about the book he was putting together amidst the whole transfer and coronavirus pandemic, and now the book is finally out. So of course I'm joined by top pro and now also top journalist top author Jamie Jackson is on with me. Jamie, how are you doing, mate? And it's great to see your face again.
I'm unbelievable after that intro. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I only messed it up about 5 times, and that's pretty good going for me, especially on a Friday night. So I'm quite happy with that one. Jamie, the Red Apprentice, Solskjaer, the making of United's great hope. It is out right now. How excited are you about this release?
Yeah, I'm very excited. You know, at heart, well, not even at heart, just all parts of me. I'm a writer. Yeah, you know, I write fiction. I've published one novel. I just like writing. Yeah, I just like writing, and that's books. When I say that, sorry, you know, primarily. And so this is my third book. It's my second one on United. And yeah, I'm very excited because a lot of hard work's gone into it. It's been a very interesting process. I've never done a biography before. I've learned absolutely loads about how you write a biography, what I'm capable of as a writer with regard to hard work, because I was getting up at 5 basically every morning to do that, and now that I've finished it, I'm now writing my fiction, my novels at that time. So but yeah, the actual subject, what a great subject, I've got to say. What a story. I mean, you know the fairy tale of 99, obviously that is a fairy tale. I don't care who you are, whether you like it or not, that's a fairy tale. He comes on and scores that goal, an unbelievable final. Well, there's lots of fairy tales, pretty much, maybe not quite as seismic as that, but there, you know, his life is a fairy tale. I mean, you know, you or I may not forget this, but I think it's faded a little bit for people how much of a sort of fairy tale was him going back to United as the caretaker. Okay, yeah. It was like, well, a little bit like when he signed for United. So, you know, then it was Ole who. When he signed as a player, and at that time as well, Crumb was really a caretaker, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, not me, but some people. And now here he is. It's going to be his 100th game as manager on Sunday against Arsenal, and you know, he goes from strength to strength. And the book takes him from when he's a kid, basically. Some great stuff there. How he came to join United, how he nearly missed joining United. I mean, I could go through it all. I didn't realise until I examined it how serious and how heartbreaking the injury was that ended his career. Last 3 or 4 years out of his career, but he learned so much there with regard to wanting to be a manager and coach. So it's been a bit of a privilege, really, to do the book. It's just been so interesting, Ben.
Yeah, I said now top author. Really, the word I meant to use was now top biographer, because as you say, this is the first real biography that you've got your teeth into. So why? Yeah. I know you say now about his fairy tale story, and that's sort of what attracted you. But you know, for a writer, and as you say, someone who loves writing, why Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as your first biography? What is it about that fairy tale that really stood out to you?
Well, because it's not really been told exhaustively or definitively or you know, thoroughly, other than maybe. Yes, what sort of everyone knew before, including me. But also biography, I love reading them, yeah. I'll give you a very quick example. It's kind of similar. I thought I knew everything about Elvis, you know, Presley, because of what's around in popular culture. There's a 2-part biography of him called Last Train to Memphis and Careless Love, and Crumbs. The writer got so much stuff, and you just come out of it thinking, yeah, the stuff that everyone knows is still there, but all the other stuff, my word, actually Elvis. You know, and this is the sort of thing with Solskjaer. You know, he walks into that very first press conference as the caretaker manager, and he basically owns the room. And you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought he was supposed to be a little bit, you know, how can I say this? He's not Jose Mourinho, he's not Van Gaal, he's not Klopp, but he's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and in his own way, in a very good, constructive way, he doesn't give a what's it what other people think, and he's smart enough to know about the criticisms or the doubts about him. He knows all that. You know, he's a very clever man. And so, yeah, what a great subject. And the fact that there's never been an actual definitive, there's been some books about him, don't get me wrong, but there's never been a biography. And the idea of a biography, I'll update it at the end of this season we're on now for the paperback, is that if it's worth its salt, which hopefully it is, it'll be a reference point, not just for now, but for years to come. Other people may do biographies. Excuse me. And I'd love to see that, because that shows what an interesting subject that particular person is. But, it's quite it's quite an exciting thing to have written this, because it opens up other biographies of other people. Now I've done this, great publisher, great stuff in there. Hopefully, let's see what's next. But for the moment, it only came out yesterday. It's difficult to explain the publication day, 'cause it's my third one, but it's a little bit Christmas, like birthday. If you've got any kids, it's a bit like when they're born. It's just something you don't really feel that day. You just sort of excited.
It's a long process, isn't it? It's a really long process to having, so to speak, guys. I don't actually know how it works, but I was actually going to say, do you want to grab one of the books and show us? But from coming up with the, so to speak, the topic or the talking point or the reference point, then writing about it and getting all the details, doing your research, cross-referencing, putting it to paper, getting it. But it's just such a long process. So it must feel like Christmas when publishing day happens.
Yeah, because once upon a time that didn't exist. All I had was the idea.
It looks great, by the way. I love the front cover. It looks great.
Yeah, I think they captured, sort of who he is and how much he loves the club. But once upon a time, it was just an idea. You signed a contract, great, brilliant publisher, and then it's like, all right, here we go. There's nothing there. There's literally nothing. And that's an interesting moment, Ben, because you've got I think it's about 90, maybe 95,000 words.
Yeah.
I think the contract was signed for a book between 80 to 100, and you're thinking, I've written. Published one novel. I'm on about my 7th. I've been through the process of writing a book, but to a certain extent, fiction's easier for me because it's just all in your head. You just make it up. That might sound a bit mad, but with a biography, you've got to go out there. As you just basically said, you've got to do all that. So you go through that whole process. It should have come out originally. Excuse me. The first summer. Can I tell you a very quick story about this? Yeah. So
yeah, please do.
I luckily enough, I signed a very, let's say, generous contract for this book. The fee was amazing, and it had nothing at all to do with whether he was sacked or etc., etc. I would have that money, but part of it or added to that was a sort of a generous bonus if he qualified for the Champions League. Yeah. Now, if you remember when I signed this deal, you just beaten PSG the first time. You're absolutely flying. It looked an absolute shoo-in that you would finish third, never mind fourth. Cut a long story short, you obviously bombed after that, and I'm thinking, crumbs, I'm like the kiss of death here. So, as I say, I was on this bonus for finishing top 4. You ended up finishing 6th, and I'm like, oh, crumbs, that was unlucky. But then they put the publication date back for a year, so that reactivated that sort of clause, that bonus. And of course, so you're going to Leicester on the final day, of the season, and I'm thinking, if you just better Chelsea's result or whatever you had to do, then. And so I was living a little bit like a fan. I'm not a fan of United. When Lingard scores, he hadn't scored since the first Solskjaer, certainly in the league anyway, to finish it all off. But that sort of thing, it's a bit of a roller coaster, but it's been enjoyable. It's been good fun.
Well, of course, you had a pandemic kick in, and it was just such a crazy time for you. But quick, Jamie, I'm really pleased to say, and fingers crossed, we're going to be able to pull this out of the bag, because we've had to mess around with some dates, as I completely forgot. My family can hear me say this, by the way, which is really bad. I completely forgot that I'm away next week, and we were going to record some specials around this time now to go out in line with the book being launched. But what we're going to do is we're going to plan something brilliant. I'm going to throw it to the publishing guys and yourself, and try and get some guests on to really go in deep and do a couple of special mini shows on Ole to push the book, because I do think it's a fantastic book. I do think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and again, this is someone who I'm 26, so as I was growing up, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was in and around United, but probably I missed his prime years as a footballer. And obviously, 99, although I saw it and I felt it through my dad, so to speak, I was still so young there. So when it comes to learning about these players, I always want to learn a little bit more, because they're part of the cult history of the club. And I like to feel that I am a bit of a United historian. I learn quite a lot about the players. But even then, like you said, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, for me, if you turn around and said to me, right, your specialist subject is Ole, I would probably crap myself, because again, like you say, maybe it's because of the respect to the man on how he handled himself. There is not an awful lot out there about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and even you there saying about his career ending because of the injury and the way that all happened. I personally, then I'm thinking to myself, was it the injury? I just felt like he fell slightly out. And of course it was. Yeah, you are completely right, but it's not spoken about that much. So I think I cannot wait to read the book. I cannot wait to dig in deeper on some videos and some chats with you about this, and speak to some other people who know Ollie as well quite well, and maybe even some. I was thinking the other day about potentially some former players to come on with yourself as well, and to chat about him to push the book. But I haven't read it yet, so I don't want to do you the discredit of asking you questions and me not also having the backing of it. So I thought what we do on this show, Jamie, is talk a little bit more about what's happening with United right now, what's happening with Ollie right now. But before we jump into that, just quickly, mate, how does it feel to have that book behind you right now and for it to be out there? How does that feel?
Feels amazing, to be honest, because I love writing. I've always dreamed of having books, in bookshops or on Amazon or wherever it is. I used to go to bookshops and look at these authors and think, wow, this is like something like the Wizard of Oz. How do you do? No, I'm being serious, and I still feel that. That's why I love it. I actually, it's like it makes me so sort of like happy. So yeah, I just feel, and I'm hoping that there'll be another 10, 20, 30 books, but whether they're novels or not, just because I find it very natural to write. So yeah, I feel lucky that I've had it in me to have enough in me to work hard enough to realise the little bit of talent I've probably got for it. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have a little bit of writing talent, but you don't get anywhere without any hard work. And luckily for me, I know how to get my head down.
There's a lot of hard work that's gone into this, as Jamie's just said. It's a fantastic topic. Learn about our gaffer, but not just that. Learn about an iconic figure at our football club who lived a fairy tale dream, and I think that's the best way to put it. Search it on Amazon. Jamie Jackson's A Red Apprentice. Solskjaer, The Making of United's Great Hope. Go and grab that. And if you didn't search it now, I'm going to remind you at the end of this show again. So then you should definitely go and do it. But talking about Ollie, Jamie, let's move on because I love picking your footballing brain. He's been quite brave recently, hasn't he? Trying some different formations. And I think every single United fan out there who does YouTube videos have been jumping on the fact that they called for the diamond formation first that worked so well the other week against Leipzig. What have you made of Ollie recently switching it up? Because there's been so many questions around Ollie and his tactical education and his tactical awareness in games. Yet recently he seems to have been able to come up with the perfect formulas to, if not match up against teams, to beat them.
Well, so let's take two very recent examples. The game at PSG, Chuanzebe plays. It's free at the back. And it was just a bit of a masterclass, I thought. I mean, I thought it was a far better, not that it's a competition, but I thought it was a far more accomplished win at PSG or result at PSG than the one where you went through on away goals that first time, although that was a heck of a performance as well. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think he's always had it in him. So there was that example. And then we see, I mean, this Leipzig game, come on, Nagelsmann is sort of, considered the coming man of tactical genius managerial world, and he gets absolutely, his team gets absolutely decimated. What I loved about it, among many things, was the way that, he brings on Bruno Fernandes and Rashford. Basically, you'd probably argue his two best players, or certainly Fernandes is the best player, and we could have an argument about Rashford or Greenwood because I love Greenwood. But anyway, he brings those two on. And what a masterstroke that is after Van der Beek's done a good job, and Rashford scores his hat-trick, and it's suddenly like, right, okay, what a ploy that is. They're tiring. They've controlled the game. United, you were leading anyway. I think it was 1-0, was it? Yeah, that's correct. And then he scored another 4 goals. But I can give you, you'll know this being a fan. The very first time Solskjaer's United ever played Spurs at Wembley, because he was still there then, he played Lingard as a false, or certainly a number 9, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And you won that game 1-0. And I don't know if you recall this part of it, but going into that game, it's like, oh, you've been flying. I think you won your first 8 on the bounce. Maybe then had a draw, then won another one. And it was like, oh, here's your first test, against Pochettino Spurs. But, it was a tactical
was that the game with the Pogba ball over the top and the Rashford finish into the bottom left-hand corner? Yeah, fantastic goal, that. Fantastic. And again, a prime example of Rashford playing up top and being brilliant. And that's what I've loved recently about Marcus Rashford. I think we've played him as a number 9 and he's looked superb. Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting because I don't know if this has changed, but certainly he wanted to play on the left where he has been playing. So that's been through his choice. But just a word on Greenwood, really, because I think Greenwood had started one game, certainly in the league, that was it, which I think was the one that he had down south. Was it Bournemouth or Brighton? Whichever game it was, right on the south coast towards the start. Yes, he started that game, and then he's been ill, he's been injured, and I don't know that goal. There was only one place he could score that goal because of the angle. And I just knew he could do it. I just knew. Watch this, and he didn't just whack. He didn't whack it. He just coolly. I mean, the lad has got something. He's like Phil Foden at City. It's just easy for him football. You know, at that level, it just is, and that's a massive bonus because, as I say, he hadn't been starting games for you. And you know, I know that he rates him. This is Solskjaer, Greenwood, the best sort of centre forward, striker, finisher, marksman there, ahead of Martial, ahead of Rashford. And so to have him up your sleeve, he's not really started consistently yet, you know, and you know, Pogba had been dropped the last 3 games. And he starts him and he creates that goal, right? Yeah, you know, for Greenwood, he makes that run, plays him, lovely run by Greenwood. I mean, come on, how clever is he? And yeah, you're right about the tactical. So I'm doing the game on Sunday against Arsenal. You know, luckily enough for me, I get to go and see a report on them, and I can't wait to see who he chooses, because this is the other thing. I don't know whether you'd agree or your viewers. Not everyone will do, but that if you look back at the window now, and I know it's easy to say because of the results, but to a certain extent that's how it works. That window was good. Van der Beek's improved you, and Tellez, you know, sadly for the lad, obviously he's going to be okay. Hopefully he's got COVID, but you know, he's a left back who plays for Brazil. He creates, he scores goals, and a few of them are penalties for Porto, but he high in assists as well. You've got him to come as well. You've got the 2 18-year-olds, Pellistri and Diallo. Let's see what they're like when Diallo gets here in January. But it was actually a good window in the end. The Sancho thing was a little bit of a distraction because everyone thought, because you didn't get him, disaster. But hello, Cavani, I've not even mentioned either. I mean, you know, has he improved your squad compared to Ighalo? All respect to Ighalo? Yes, of course he has. So, you know, things are cooking.
See, I like asking the questions on this, but do you want my views on the transfer window? Just my own personal views. And guys, you can get yours in the comments. I'm sorry about the strobing tonight, by the way. I don't know what's going on with this light and the lighting in my place, but whatever. We're having a party. Why not? It's Friday at the end of the day. My personal thoughts on the transfer window are it depends how we're going to play. I think if we want to play that 4-2-3-1, then with the signings we've brought in, we don't really improve that first 11. Yeah, you might say we had some squad depth, but actually, if we're going to set up and play like that week in, week out, we needed a winger, and you're not going to get a centre back and a defensive midfielder overnight. So it's just like, well, if you can't toy with one or the other, then I just don't understand it. However, if Ollie's going to set out with this 3-5-2 or this diamond formation, 100%, yeah, we've got the players to fill that. And not just that, we've got the squad depth to be able to rotate, and we've got the squad depth to be able to cause teams problems with players coming off the bench and no one knowing who we're going to start, and the second 11 being as good as the first 11. So yeah, I completely agree. And I think looking at the side now, if we are looking to move forward with this system and these players who we've got to fill the system and the positions, 100% I think we've had a good window. And also, by the way, just to point out, Jamie, I don't know what you think about this, Luke Shaw's looked a better player since Alex Tellez has joined the club. And that's what happens when you've got competition for places. Is that me being a dumb fan, or is that true?
No, I think that you've been a smart sort of, smart looker.
You said the word smart. You don't have to say anything else.
Look, he was asked the question today, actually. Have you now got this? He was actually, the question was: Is the depth of your squad your biggest strength in a title race? Now, first of all, he didn't sort of say, well, I'm not too sure about a title race. He let that one ride. In other words, why the heck not think you can? But secondly, he said we're like a Manchester United squad now. It's basically what you're saying. And I think, I hear what you're saying about the 4-2-3-1, but I think half the point is he couldn't really rotate to great effect before because he didn't necessarily have these options. Now he has, and I think that's another reason why. I mean, I know he's played free at the back before, but I think that's why you're seeing him tinkering with it, because he sort of, he believes he can do it come off. I mean, Leipzig 5-0. I don't care who you are. You're beating the Champions League semi-finalists this week and the losing finalists last week. Come on. I mean, it's supposed to be a tough group. I mean, at the moment you're walking through it. This is from a team that were not just, but 4 games ago, were hammered 6-1 by Spurs. But now you can look at that and say, because the hard evidence is there in terms of results and performance. Yeah. What he was sort of alluding to, he would never make excuses. You shouldn't be losing 6-1, don't get me wrong. But, you had 1 week together as a squad because the short pre-season, you weren't fit, you weren't sharp. You look what I've noticed, because I don't know, for some reason, whether there's not been any crowd in Old Trafford, you really it's almost like you're closer to the play. You're more on it. It feels more visceral, and it just I could really tell on Wednesday how much sharper and more muscular you were, and more sort of like like hard into everything. And that's if you look around that team now, there's a lot of young players, and when I say young, I don't necessarily mean they don't know what they're doing. I just mean like they're really fit and got that energy, and it's like they're coming at you. And Van der Beek coming in, I love what he's done with Van der Beek, because what he did was when he dropped, he didn't think, I've got to get my £35 million, and he looked around and he thought, wait a minute, Fred and McTominay did good for me last season. Why are they not next in line? That's good management. Yeah, he's given them a chance, they've taken it. Don't know whether you'd agree, it's probably Rashford, but Fred was also one of the very best players. Leipzig. So great, as you say, competition, absolutely brilliant.
They all worked hard. To a man, they all worked hard, and I think that's obviously through the poor. And I made this point last week with Graham Bailey, who's not the biggest Ole Gunnar Solskjaer fan. I made the point that actually I do think the pre-season massively hindered us. I think you could tell that in our first performance. We hardly covered any ground. If you want to go statistic heavy, I think if you have a look in total, United were averaging per man about 6 to 7k in our first 2 games of the season. Against PSG and against Leipzig, we were averaging around 10 to 12. Like that, and that's a big difference.
That's very well up there. 9, like 9, 10's minimum really for acceptable. Yeah, you're right. I agree.
Which is incredible. Donny van der Beek done nearly 10k in a half of football. If you have a look at that, 65 minutes of football the other day, which is absolutely incredible. It just goes to show that the players are getting fitter and they're working harder. And if we go back to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's, one of his first ever press conferences when he got the job, I want the hardest working team in the league. And I think if we look back, and even though the draw against Chelsea was looked at as a stalemate 0-0 and we didn't do enough, we blimmin' worked our socks off that game. The attack just wasn't there and it just didn't work out. But defensively, we were sound, and I think that's a big plus. But I do want to just hit on a couple of things, Jamie, if that's all right, just off of what you've just said, and then we can move on with a couple of different bits. Greenwood, you get whispers here and there, and you're quite close to United, and obviously you've covered the press conferences with Ole, and we know what Ole said. But for you, is there any worry over Greenwood's discipline and these rumours that have come out recently?
Not really, no. I don't think you get anywhere near that team if Ole didn't trust the player. I mean, I had it on good authority that he was talked to. Now it's interesting. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, as the manager, then came out and said, "I don't know where these reports are coming from, so I'm not going to go any further." But I'm pretty confident that how can I say it? I wouldn't have been told that unless there was good reason. But there's late timekeeping, and there's other stuff. And that's all I'm saying. I was told about late timekeeping, but I don't think there's an issue there. I mean, did you the way he played? And let's turn it around a bit. Let's say there was a concern there. Well, it looks like he has managed him correctly, Solskjaer, because he's just scored that goal and just basically looked like he's never been away, really. Greenwood is such a massive bonus because this lad, I think he'll probably, if he stays at United, I don't even think it's a debate. He will cream Wayne Rooney's record goal scoring time. He just will, because Rooney was never always a dedicated centre forward. He's usually number 10, or this lad will probably play centre forward or play wherever he likes and score. I mean, I don't want to get too carried away because you never know, but with him, he actually reminds me of Rooney, actually, in this respect, that he never really makes the wrong decision. Even though, and I'm talking about when he played, I think his very first game was Cardiff. Sad to remind you, when I think you lost at home to them towards the end of the season, his first season, Solskjaer, and he hit the post with a right foot shot. But he was the best player that day. And so what I'm saying is, even at that age, going back a year and a half, whatever it is, he just looks so mature. So I just think he's a massive bonus. Once he is up and running, if he just contributes what he did post the lockdown, wow. And you've not had that so far. This is what I'm trying to say. And the other thing is about the league position. You're a game behind, right? So you're 6 points behind, but you don't need me to tell you. You've got a game in hand. So, if you win that, I know it's an if, but if you do, you're effectively only 3. You're in it. Of course you are.
Yeah. And who knows what's going to happen this season? It's a bloody ridiculous season. So you've just got to get the points on the board. Again, another point I made last week with Graham. I think everyone knows this season you've just got to get as many points as you can in your first 10 games. It's always been the way. As many points on the board, then you refine your football. Forget going out and wanting to play tiki-taka football. At the moment, if you can get 3 points in the bag because of a goal coming off of the back of a central defender's arse and you win the game 1-0, so be it. Points on the board at the moment are so crucial when they're few and far between. And I think that's the thing at the moment with the situation around football. We sort of don't know what's going to happen game to game. Sorry, there's shock here, there, and everywhere. Like, who would have thought the Villa Liverpool score? Who would have even thought the Tottenham United score? Who would have thought? Just there's so much going on.
Got creamed 5-2. I did that game by Leicester, if you remember.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's just such a weird start to the season, which makes me think, Jamie, what should my expectations be as a Man United fan this season? Because you just don't know. And I'm never one of those fans, and I don't think United fans should ever be happy with going, yeah, all right, top 4. As long as we get top 4, I'll be happy. But I just sort of want to get through the season and get fans back in the stadium next year and then go, right, let's go for it. But then again, I'm like, well, opportunities may be there this year.
I think you've got a chance. I really do. Let's talk and say, again, in sort of 5 or 10 games time, and if they're really behind, you could have a really good laugh at it. I do think you've got a fighting chance. I just do, because of what you just basically described there, because you've already lost 2 games, but you're only effectively, if you win that game in hand, 3 points behind. And that's because I think Liverpool have also drawn a game. They drew the Merseyside derby. They haven't got Van Dijk.
Or Fabinho, I don't think either. I think that's quite a bad-looking injury.
And City didn't have Laporte basically all of last season. That kind of, they were half killed anyway because they needed another centre-back before that happened. But I think you've got a chance. If I was a United fan, I'd be like, you'd have to shout it from the rooftops, but why not? I think he thinks it as well. As I say, the question that he was asked today about is this your biggest strength in a title race? He didn't sort of say, let's not get carried away. He just sort of answered it on its merits. Yeah, well, it's a Man United squad. It feels like one. Obviously, compare it to the ones he played in with Keane, etc. So I think you've got a chance.
I mean, it's going to be such an interesting season, isn't it? I mean, I still don't think the start to the season, I said this last week, I don't think it's been as bad start to the season as actually some people are making out. And actually, I think, Jamie, I don't know if you can elaborate on this. These wins against PSG and Leipzig, because it's Ole as our manager and because we're Manchester United, I think are going to be massively overlooked. I think they are 2 fantastic wins, and people can say what they want about PSG being slightly depleted and they didn't get proper investment in the window, but that front 3, come on. And then you've got the Leipzig side who are unbeaten, by the way, and I think they'd only conceded something like 2 goals before the game against United, something like that anyway. And we beat them 5-0.
Yeah, no, I don't think they should be overlooked at all. And it's interesting you say there. Some people say, and part of what you said was because Ole's your manager. This sort of anti-Ole thing, I'm a little bit puzzled about, because you finished 3rd last season. I'm not sure where else. Did people really, or some people, expect United to finish 2nd or win it? I don't think so, did they? I mean, even the most.
I think the argument is we're Man United and the expectation should always be to win the league. But then my argument is that we can be Manchester United fans and optimistic, but we can also be realists and actually look at a squad and go, that squad's not good enough to challenge for a title against Liverpool, City, etc. So, yeah, I think that's part of it.
Listen, I think it is a fair enough expectation that you should always win it. But if you've had years of sort of disrepair and dysfunctional transfer recruitment and all the rest of it, chopping and changing a little bit with managers, basically losing your way, really, then that isn't the Manchester United of sort of Ferguson. So, I think actually I looked at it from a book. I think it's 30 plus major players that have left since Ferguson. So that's a big turnover, and I think it's probably about the same number, maybe a little bit more actually. High 30s have come in. So that's a lot, it's a lot. And you spent the most money. You spent the most money of any team in Europe last couple of years, all the rest of it. To go back to the Ole thing, I understand, you lose 6-1, of course people are going to say, well, but I don't know, then to respond the way the team has, you've got something going on. He has. Those players, it's very difficult, obviously, to come back from a 6-1 defeat like that, the way you have done, but you have. You're unbeaten, and you basically, I was doing the maths, is it 11-1 or something, the overall score? It's 5-4. It might be more, actually. 5-4 and 10-1, isn't it? Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good aggregate.
Yeah, no, it's not bad at all. I mean, what I find quite interesting, Jamie, is with Ollie, and let's keep this conversation maybe on him slightly, is my worry at the start of the season was, can he get a reaction out of the players after that Spurs game? Because we had the international break and then we needed a reaction. And I think there were a few people wondering if he could get a reaction out of the players. But I actually think if you look back to Ollie's biggest moments when he's needed a reaction as manager of Manchester United, he's got it. I mean, he's got it. So now are we wrong to doubt him having the backing of players when he needs a reaction from them or needs them to play up? Because every time so far he's got it. What happened in that Burnley game? I think the week after then we had City, didn't we? Twice within a couple of days, because it was like the Carabao Cup second leg and then a Premier League beaten both times. And we were going into the coronavirus, coming out of the coronavirus pandemic in an awful, well, really quite a bad situation. We knew what we needed to do to turn it around. We've done it in a sensational way. So is he already proved the doubters wrong? Does he need to stop? Should we stop needing him to prove himself yet? Does that make sense as a question?
I get why, but I think some people don't like to be sort of not proved wrong, but sort of maybe think, oh, maybe I've got this judgment wrong. I mean, to be honest, unless you are winning every match, there's always an opportunity to sort of say, oh well, you've drawn this game, or you've lost this one, so therefore he's not the man. I think the way I'd look at it, right, is, do you want your club to win the title? Yes, of course you do. Do you want to win it every season? Yes. Is that going to happen? No. But do you want to win it, say, 2 out of 3, which is kind of United's ratio? It certainly was. Yeah, but to get back to that, it's going to take time. Ferguson took 7 years to win his first championship, 4 years to win his first cup, 7 years to win his first title. I'm not saying he's going to get 7 years, but that's Ferguson. Imagine if he was starting now, you probably never see what Ferguson went on to be, which is like the preeminent genius, probably of our football. Certainly, probably he's got an argument for anywhere in the world. He needs time. Klopp took 4 years, was it, to win a first trophy? I can't. I don't cover Liverpool. It takes time, especially, and I would suggest that Solskjaer had a massive rebuild job. So it's easy for me to say because I'm not a fan, so I don't actually have any, how can I say, feelings about it, sort of like, oh, crumbs, blah, 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 blah. But I tell you the thing that makes me laugh is this Pochettino thing. Pochettino's won nothing. Why is he going to be any better necessarily? Mm-hmm. I just don't quite understand it. But because he had listen, he did really well at Spurs. He developed some players, all the rest of it. But I would suggest the squad he inherited, or kind of, it was a more easier gig than what Solskjaer's had to do. So. And the other thing is I'd say to you is, now that you did finish third, you responded to that Spurs thing, and the longer he goes there, the less likely it is them. I mean, they've shown they're not going to sack him anyway, but they've invested so much time. And just a sort of little nugget here. When you lost 6-1 to Spurs, I was walking out of the ground that night with someone works at the club high up, would know, and there was a sort of scoffing of the very idea that they would go anywhere near Pochettino because of that. And that was continued to be the message, because it was the international break through that, as the dust settled and all the rest of it. From what I'm told, they didn't go anywhere near contacting him intermediate. And they actually think they're a little bit puzzled why this comes up all the time. They get that, there's always going to be a certain, you just lost this game and you're Manchester United, but they just think if you actually look at what he's done, why would they question him? It's a long-term thing. And I think you've got to admire the club for that. You want to be that sort of club, don't you? That sort of, if you think you've got the right man, and I know it's opinions, I get all that, and people think, well, I don't think that's the right man. But if they think they've got the right man, surely it does. Surely it's good for your club, gives your club a lot of class and all the rest of it. If they're actually right, we're going to stick with this guy and show loyalty, which they did last season when Woodward could have sacked him. Woodward gets all sorts of pelters, but I can tell you now, he loves the club. He's a fan, and he's in it for the long term with regard to Solskjaer, because he really believes in him. And I think that might be misguided, but I think that's a good way to be.
With what you've just said there, Jamie, and again, just playing devil's advocate here completely. Obviously, we've put our personal opinions on the transfer window, but of course, if you would believe rumours and even some of the conversations we were having at the time about Ollie's targets, who in the end we didn't get. And I say all these targets with the hypotheticalness around that phrase. the argument against that is that, you know, the board love him, the board want to back him, the board want to support him. But then again, obviously, if we have a look at the black and white paper, is he actually getting backed then? Is he getting the players he wants? Because he clearly did want Bellingham, he clearly did want Haaland, he clearly did want Sancho. And they're just three names he didn't get. Last summer, he wanted Bruno Fernandes, didn't get him till January. So just playing devil's advocate a little bit, like the board can trust him and want to stick with him and have the longevity with him. But they've got to back him, haven't they, in every way possible.
They have, but he and I believe he's on board with this. He also doesn't want any sort of the club to be put into any sort of financial difficulty or peril. And they thought that in the end, the Sancho deal, to take that example, just wasn't worth what they were being asked. And the same for Haaland, where Raiola was asking a ridiculous, not just the fee, Ben, but the sort of terms, the clauses that he wanted in there. So they walked away from it. That's going to be frustrating for Solskjaer, but not with the club. I think he understands that. Of course he does. And Fernandes is interesting because they ended up getting Fernandes because they got basically the deal that they thought was correct. So that's why it didn't happen, in the summer. So another thing to sort of say is, if there'd been money, if they'd had the money, so what I'm trying to say, it wasn't Woodward who blocked paying, let's say, 120 million for Sancho. It'll be the Glazers. Woodward is very powerful there because he's the most powerful man on the ground at United, but he's not the owner. He talks to sort of Joel Glazer, if not every day, 2 or 3 days, 4 days a week. He's hands-on in that regard. They actually, so it's not Woodward who's sort of vetoing that. Oh, we can't go that extra 15. It's the Glazers basically. Now you can argue whether that's right or whether you like that. But it's not Woodward in that respect. The
Love United Hate the Glazers clan are going to love that one line there. That's the only part of the interview they're going to absolutely love.
So that's their right, and I would say that they took that in the recent financial accounts. It said that they took the usual 22-23 million pound dividend. Now that money there, you could say, well, wait a minute, maybe that should have gone towards Sancho. Now that case, I can see, but that is not Woodward. That's not Woodward. That money. So I have definitely some. I can understand kind of the devil's advocate point you're saying, and I've got to say, if it's me, but it's not me, I'm thinking, well, if it's really 15-20 million pound shortfall,
why didn't you pay it?
They priced the deal at just shy of about 250 million euros if you factor in the wages. It's quite a lot of money. So I don't know. I can see it both points of view.
Yeah. And of course, as you said there, it's an opinion platform, isn't it? So there's always going to be, you'll read one, as you know, working in the industry, you'll read one article that says this, one article that says that, one article that focuses more on this point, and the other article that focuses more on this point. And then it just spurs a number of flurries of opinion. And then we all start talking about it on fan channels. And then there's another opinion here. And it's just the floating world of social media. But no, I completely understand where you're coming from. I just had to play devil's advocate slightly there, of course. Just one last thing I do want to hit on Ole, because that's what we were talking about, and sort of and sort of the backing he's getting. Look, I mentioned that I spoke to Graham last week, and he isn't obviously Ole's biggest fan. Obviously, I don't want to pitch people up against each other. That's not what I want to do. But he was basically talking to me about a statement he made where he doesn't think that Ole is good enough to win the league at United, basically. And so I don't want to talk about Ole winning the league at United. I want to talk more about your opinion, Jamie, on how close this squad, this team is to winning silverware. Of course, the semi-finals we went through last year too, and of course, third place after a great run towards the end of the season. We'd expect a better outing this year in at least one of those competitions. So could there be a chance of silverware this year, do you think?
Yeah, a very big chance. I think, it's bitterly disappointing to lose in 3 semi-finals. And I go back to what I said before. I think the squad is probably, I don't know how to quantify it exactly, but I would say 15% better. With maybe 20, so that's like a fifth better than what you were, and that might just be what you needed to get over the line. Because when you get to say, a cup game, you could play Van der Beek, and he looked good for me considering he's not played a lot of football. I think it was only like 50 minutes. Maybe 59 minutes in the Premier League. He never started in the Premier League yet. He looked good.
You mentioned, Jamie, sorry, about the way Ole's managed him. Why do you think he's managed him so well? Why do you think that he's done so well with Van der Beek so far?
Because, well, first of all, he probably thought he couldn't go in straight away, so he's got the incumbents then. Then Pogba basically, to sort of stick the place out against Spurs, it wasn't tracking back. And then when he drops Pogba, you're thinking, oh, this is the chance for the new signing. But I think Van der Beek only has to respect the fact that he's chosen basically Fred or Scott McTominay, whichever way, round you want to look at it, because he's got, he's just got there. So if he's got anything about him, which he will do, he'll understand that these guys are here before me. They played well last season. Why would he not pick them? And I tell you, the proof of why I think he's managing him was how he played. He did, because he against Leipzig, because he suddenly he's got a chance, tip of the diamond. I've got to show what I can do because I've not been in the team yet. I'm not, properly, like for a proper game starting. And I thought he took it. That's all the proof you need is the player playing, because he comes off after however long and he'll have a taste for it. He's part of that win. And so I don't know, when you're winning like you are doing, players are gagging to get in that team because it's playing well.
Sorry, Jeremy, I was just going to say, do you know what I loved the most about Van der Beek's performance and that game? And as you say, the way Ole managed the game and the players, so to speak, is that Van der Beek, as you said, I thought he had a fantastic game, was brilliant, worked his socks off and looked so fitting in that team. And a fantastic option, putting in mind he came in as rotation, so to speak, for Bruno. It's great to see a player come in who could do a fantastic job in that position and be just as good as so to speak, the player who plays there week in, week out, which is Bruno. But then when you have a player who plays so well during the game, right, which Van der Beek did, and then you had Bruno Fernandes come on and look just different gravy. It just goes to show how much better of a position you're in with your squad. Because I don't know about you, Jamie, but when Bruno Fernandes came on, just every time he got hold of the ball, and this is no disrespect to Van der Beek, it just shows how good Bruno Fernandes is. He just looked completely better than anyone else on the pitch.
This is why it was so clever, because when he brings him on, he's bringing on basically his star act, and it helped tear Leipzig apart. That's good management, isn't it? I mean, that is, you have to win in the game. Wow, you didn't just win the game. You sort of put on a bit of an exhibition, like against a very good German league leading side. But yeah, it is interesting. But Van der Beek's got to look at that and say, right, that's the standard. Bruno Fernandes, isn't it? It's the pursuit of excellence. Go through this team now, right? It's interesting, isn't it? Attack is the best form of defense. It's such an interesting cliche because, first of all, it's a cliche because it's true. But wow, doesn't the defense look better when it doesn't have to do much, because it's all at the other end? Because the midfield, Van der Beek, Fernandes, Pogba played well, controlling it, and then you've got that your forwards. Rashford tearing up, Greenwood just looking like an absolute dream. Martial didn't score, but Crumsy played well, I thought. That's the other thing, Martial. So many times, after his initial burst under Van Gaal when he first came to your club, and then he sort of lost his way a little bit. Ibrahimovic came and he's playing wide. At that period, he would get the ball, and because he's not in the team all the time, he doesn't feel backed. These runs he goes on, he'd lose the ball often. You think, oh, that's a shame. But now when he goes on these runs, he doesn't lose it, and he's creating, havoc. So, you've got Cavani as well. This is what I'm saying, and you've got Telles. It's like I keep on forgetting about the extra players you have. You know what I mean? To come in and so what will he do on Sunday? Because Martial's it's his last game suspended, so he can't play. Will he bring Cavani in? He may well do. I think I put him in my sort of predicted team, if you like.
Do you know what? I can't wait for Sunday, and I'm really looking forward to what's happening. But what we won't do is we won't talk about that now, because this is going to go out the day after the game. So by the time everyone watches this, we'll know. But what we can say is, like a mystic ball, Jamie, in front of us, we can predict what that might look like and see if it comes back to bite us in the arse. But I'm just wondering on that. So, sort of, obviously this is going out after the Arsenal, but looking forward to the next game, so to speak. If he plays with a two up top again, and utilises two front men, who for you at the moment are the best two strikers at United? Who should be starting there? Obviously, we can use rotation quite a lot for the cup games, and maybe he will rotate slightly for the upcoming games against Besiktas. That is Istanbul Besiktas. That is how you say their name, isn't it? I was just wondering to myself that I haven't just badly pronounced the football club's name there, have I? Oh no. Maybe he will slightly rotate for those games, but in terms of week in, week out, for me, it's a conundrum, because I do feel like if you're going to play, like, again, it depends whether, like we're saying earlier on, depend on the formation in terms of if we've had a good transfer window or not, where the players come in. If we're playing like Telles out wide, I want Cavani up top. because the way he puts that ball in the box, you need someone who knows how to smartly get in positions to get a foot, a chest, a head to the ball. And I think, Martial and Rashford, for how good they are at running defenders and how good they are on one-on-ones 9 times out of 10, they lack that slight bit of number 9 instinct and fire, striking firepower that Cavani's got. Then again, Greenwood for me is the best finisher we've got at the club. And then you've got Rashford who's playing fantastically. You don't want to front up against Martial. You've got 4 strikers there. How do you get just 2 of them in the team?
Well, isn't it a great problem to have? So for me, Greenwood number 1 every time. I'll have him in the team every day of the week. Unless it's you want to rest him, and then it gets interesting because of what you just said. My natural instinct is to go for Martial as well. I think he's a better player than Rashford all round. I just think he is. But then Rashford goes and does what he did the other night. It is very difficult. Cavani, I take your point. I mean, I tell you what, if you're playing alone, shot, I'm going to say Cavani, but then I'm thinking Greenwood as well, and also Martial can do.
Imagine Greenwood playing up top with Cavani though, and this is what I was saying to Jonathan Johnson, who works for Al Gossip and obviously watches PSG week in week out, and he was like, if you've got Cavani as your vocal point and someone running off of him like a Mason Greenwood, that's how you get the best out of Edinson Cavani. And the best Edinson Cavani is up there, and he still is up there. He still believes that Cavani would be starting for PSG if he was at the club, because he got his place back from Icardi, earlier on this year, and he was just saying, if he's a starter for PSG, he's a starter for Man United, no matter what. So like I say, it's an interesting thing with Cavani, because to us he feels like an unknown quantity, but if you ask people who really know him really well, they still talk about him like one of the best strikers in world football.
Well, I think he is. I think he actually reminds me a little bit in terms of where he's at in his career, even though I know he's a couple of years younger than Ibrahimovic. So Ibrahimovic comes in. He's not like, I'm just here to sort of, I'll play a few games. He came in and he absolutely battered the league at sort of 35. What was it, 27 goals before he unfortunately got that injury against, was it PSV? Mm-hmm. And I think Cavani's like that. I think he will 100% be confident he can be a first choice number 9. It's very, very interesting. And to a certain extent, I think this is kind of why you see this sort of, these formations now where you have sort of 3 or 4 top, you said about the PSG 3, because how do you fit them all in? I don't know. Rashford's interesting. He reminds me a little bit of Solskjaer, actually. So you might find this a bit weird because, Rashford is established, but the considered wisdom is at the club that he's not quite on the level of Martial and Greenwood as a finisher. Now, I don't know whether he's heard that, but look what he just did the other day, and look what he's doing. You might think, well, this isn't a football thing, but the food poverty thing is very interesting, because you tell me that is not good for his sense of who he is and well-being, that he's helping people. And I think you're seeing the results. This hat-trick, it's almost like, so what I'm trying to say is he's been he could be a little bit slipshod with his finishing. He wasn't as lethal as who else we're talking about. I'm just wondering whether we're going to see a change in that. How it suddenly clicked with Henry at Arsenal. And don't get me wrong, Rashford's been a player for you, United. I'm not trying to sort of say, but what I'm saying is I wonder if he's now finding that absolute extra degree that's going to put him right up there with sort of the very best in the world, like Mbappe or whatever, because I think he's got the tools, he's got the pace, right? He's got the bottle. Look at this penalty he scored at PSG the first time when you had all that time with VAR. Look at the way the goal he scored to beat PSG last week was like one in the playground when he gets the ball, beats the player. You know what I mean? So I'm just wondering whether we're seeing now the final leap or step up into that rarefied air. Because I think
definitely got the skill as well, hasn't he? He is an unknown quantity when he's running at you.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's you've asked me this question, and to be honest, I've gone all around the house. I'm a little bit clueless. Have I made the right choice? I just don't know.
It's decision making with Rashford. I think it's always been decision making with Rashford more than anything else. But then also, and I've always said this, Jamie, we could talk about this strikers for hours. We really could, because I've always said with Rashford and Martial, they could have been as good as they want, or they still can be because they're still really young, as good as they want to be as strikers, as number 9s. But unfortunately, they've had managers who have pushed them out wide. And I think, Ollie might have noticed, like you mentioned there, that little bit about him where he isn't as good in front of goal, and sort of made him a little bit more into a winger, I think, towards the end of last season. And we saw him backing off a bit, keeping the width for United so we could spread the play through the midfield and always have someone out on the left, and then Greenwood cutting in more as an inside forward, scoring the goals that Greenwood did towards the end of the season last season, which worked to good effect. But I think with Rashford, he has been so clinical through the ranks as a number 9, that now him going into the number 9 position, sometimes it just comes back naturally to him. Other times he looks like he hasn't played as a number 9 for ages, and it's pigs and troughs. And you can't expect a player who plays out wide, and he does 90% of the time, week in, week out, to come into the number 9 position and be a proven striker. It's tough, isn't it? So that's where I'm coming from with the Greenwood and Cavani thing. At least you've got 2 players there who are used to being number 9s. But then I'll stick with what I've always said. I think if Martial is running at you, he's one of the best in the world at doing that. Hands down. I think if you're a defender and you have to pick players you don't want to run at you, Martial is in the top 3 of that list. I just think he is. And then again with Rashford, as you say, he's just in great form. And every time there's a bit of doubt about him, he comes back firing.
Yeah. It's interesting about Martial. I've noticed this. He's a bit stronger now. He's a bit tougher.
Oh, he's good at holding the ball up now, isn't he? He's really improved that, yeah.
Not players over, is it? But he runs at them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He sort of bounce off him a little bit now. So it is an amazing headache for Solskjaer to have. But as I say, he believes that Greenwood is the best natural finish. I think he said that a couple of times. But from what I hear, if Sancho had come in, maybe I said this to you last time, it was supposedly Rashford in the long term. They maybe thought, well, and they maybe still do, but let's just see with Rashford, because as I say, I think he's got a real capacity to surprise people, because I think he's one of these, like they all should be, one of these players who wants to get better and better and better. So where he goes for the centre forward, will it be Rashford? Will it be Greenwood? Will it be Cavani on Sunday? I'm not so sure. I think I chose Cavani in the end, but it could be any of those 3 really.
So which 2? Because I mentioned about the 2, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Which 2 are you? Would you go for?
Martial would be my choice. I thought
Martial.
Combination. Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Because Greenwood champion at his junior. Greenwood is lightning. He was like a sort of almost like Olympic standard for junior ranks, fast. So he's got the pace as well. It's just maybe I don't know the way he hits that ball as well. It's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? Both footed. I'd love to play centre forward on Sunday. See how he goes.
With Bruno and Pogba behind him as well, finding him and creating space for him and getting, 100%. I'm completely with you. I do love Mason Greenwood, and I can't wait to see him evolve into this powerhouse of a player in the United shirt. Well, Jamie, we'll end it there. We're going to jump on at some point, and I don't want you to get sick of my face and talk more about the book. So I really appreciate you jumping on with me tonight. It's been great. And obviously, if you're watching this now and you've heard us try and predict little bits and pieces for Arsenal, it's all theoretically, because this is going out after the Arsenal game. We don't know how that's going to be. So, yes, get in there, United. Well done for winning that game. And, it was a nightmare. But either way, we love the club and things continue. Well, I love the club and things continue. And I'm sure Jamie has put some stuff out about the midweek antics now anyway. That's just me looking into my mystic ball, as it is. Jamie, one more time. Do you want to grab hold of the book, and we'll push people over to Amazon? Make sure you go and check out Jamie Jackson's The Red Apprentice, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, The Making of United's Great Hope. Fantastic. Look at that. Fantastic reading. If you want to learn more out about our gaffer, you've got to go and check it out. Some fantastic insights and stories in there. And as I said, subscribe to Wolf United, hit like. We're going to try and get some more stuff and some more content with Jamie to go over the book in a little bit more detail. But right now, Jamie, where can people find you?
At Jamie Jackson, 3_, Twitter, Instagram as well. It'd be nice if people want to. And the book, Amazon, Waterstones. It should be anywhere you can buy a book. You can get it on Kindle. It's currently vying, I think, the top 20 football biographies. I'm expecting it to go number 1 just because the United interest is phenomenal. But yes, I hope people enjoy the book. But also, I'm excited for United as someone who covers them. I think you've got something going on there. Considering I've covered them since the last but one season of Ferguson, I've seen at close quarters, I've seen a few teams you've had there. I think there's something really happening now.
I really appreciate that, Jamie. And again, really appreciate your time, especially when you came on during the early days of the channel and now again too. So thank you for your support and your help, mate. And sorry, one last question. I forgot about this. During the summer, when I used to get up really, really early with the kids, you used to brighten up my morning with the sunrise photos. What are you going to do now that it's pitch black outside around that time and there's no sunrise?
So I'm still getting up at that time to write my novels, but what I've been doing is pictures of it. It's just starting to get light, but it's like a sort of dark blue, light blue. So still be a little bit of something there, but nice time of the day that.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Because you haven't got all the nonsense going on. I love it. And I just stick on that. I stick on whatever I want on the telly. I've got a baby laid asleep next to me, usually after just gobbling up a bottle. And then I scroll through and I can see a sunrise, and that's about it. And it's joyful. Jamie, thanks again for coming on, mate. Thank you guys for watching Ben Talks to another great episode here with Jamie Jackson. Subscribe to All for United and hit that like button. We are out of here. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.